Hey guys, tired of feeling stuck in your dating life and striking out in the dating game? You're not alone. Maybe you just need some good coaching. Welcome to Just Ask Her, the no BS podcast for real dating advice straight from a woman's point of view. Dating expert Gracie Pleshcourt and her co-host, certified life coach Tracy Pleshcourt, are here to give you the play-by-play on how to attract more women you're interested in. So, let's take back control of your dating life. This is Just Ask Her.
Welcome back to Just Ask Her, the podcast that helps you date with confidence, connect with real women, and finally feel in control of your dating life. I'm your host, Gracie, here with my co-host and mom/certified life coach, Tracy, and we're excited to give you another episode of Just Ask Her.
Yes, so this is episode 31, and we've titled it Too Much, Too Soon, When Early Interests Turn into Sudden Distance. So submission 1 is from Evan, and it is titled, She Pulled Me in Fast, Then Pushed Me Away. Hi, Gracie and Tracy. I wanted to share a story that I think is pretty podcast worthy. It's still fresh and honestly a little raw. About a month ago, I reconnected with an old sailing friend, Isa. I reached out to see if she wanted to crew for me in a national championship. She wasn't available, but instead of the conversation ending there, we ended up catching up for over an hour. A few days later, she slid into my Instagram DMs, and from there, things evolved. Phone calls, FaceTime dates, even flowers for her birthday. It felt like something real was forming. After about a month of building this connection, I planned a stop in Miami to see her on my way to a birthday trip in San Diego. I intentionally stayed with a friend who lived about 10 blocks from her. I wanted to give her space and let things unfold naturally. She picked me up early that Saturday, and we kicked off the day playing padel, my favorite sport, with a couple of random guys who turned out to be awesome and now want us to come back and play again. We had breakfast, walked around the Coconut Grove Market, took a nap on her couch with her dog, and watched the sunset by the marina. That evening, we met some of my friends at the yacht club, then ended the night with a romantic dinner at a place she picked called Kalita. It was thoughtful, intentional, fun, and affectionate. She gave me a big kiss goodnight, and I went to bed feeling really good about everything. The next morning, we went to church together, but something felt different. Her energy had clearly shifted. After the service, she told me her social battery was a bit drained. I gave her space, let her know I needed to call my dad and brother for Father's Day, and told her to let me know when she was ready to hang out again. A few hours later, she reached out, and we went for a walk through her neighborhood. It felt like we picked up where we left off, but during the walk, she told me she realized she really wants someone physically present in Miami. As much as she enjoyed our connection, she didn't think the timing or geography was right. That stung, but I told her I understood. I don't live in Miami right now, but I've been applying for jobs there. My sailing community is based there. My twin brother and his wife live in South Florida, and my parents are planning to move there from California. I didn't start talking to her with all of that in mind, but it's true, I've been seriously considering relocating for a number of reasons. That seemed to shift her energy again. She became sweet, playful, and bubbly. We went to dinner at Garcia's, her favorite seafood spot, and had another lovely evening. But when she dropped me off, I could tell she was pulling back again. She wasn't as physically affectionate, and I had to ask for a kiss goodnight. Later, it hit me. Maybe all the excitement she showed when I first arrived was her nervous system trying to regulate. It felt like she was writing emotional checks she wasn't actually ready to cash. Something shifted after that first full day together, and it never really came back. On Monday before I flew out, we had a farewell lunch. She told me again that she just wants someone who lives in Miami, and that was it. What's tough is just a few weeks ago, she was talking about coming to visit me in Virginia. It felt like we were both putting effort into this, and now it's just over. It's kind of jarring, especially because in so many ways, she fit what I've been looking for. She loves Jesus, she sails, she plays padel, she speaks Spanish, which I've always hoped my kids would. She loves Will Ferrell movies and even shares my favorite comedians. We laughed at all of the same dumb stuff. It felt like more than just a coincidence. I'm not in the business of convincing someone to like me, and I told her that. But I also told her I'd be kicking myself if I didn't say that this felt worth exploring. I truly believe I could be present for her in a real and grounded way, even if I'm not living down the street today. So here's my question. How do I recognize when someone is diving in head first before they're truly ready? And how do I protect myself from falling into a pattern of getting hit with emotional whiplash once things start to feel real? I want to stay open, hopeful, and intentional. but I also want to avoid getting burned by premature intensity. Thanks so much for holding space for stories like this. I really appreciate what you both do.
That is a really good submission. I hear stories like this a lot, particularly when I'm working with my clients. It's crazy to me how often this happens. And it's a topic that we've talked about on the podcast before, but I think it's really hard to grasp until you're actually in it. And when you're in it, it's really hard to see. So to reiterate your questions, the first one you asked was, how do I recognize when someone is diving in headfirst before they're truly ready? For one, you're not truly going to know what's going on in the other person's head. And so telling yourself this story that you could somehow figure that out isn't probably helpful. That's something that they have to communicate. And if they're not communicating it, or they're communicating a different story than how they really feel, that's not on you. That's on them. But I do think that a lot of situations like this could be avoided if you took the necessary amount of time in the early stages of getting to know each other, like spreading out those first couple of dates, spreading out the amount of time that you guys spend together. This is a little bit of a different circumstance. And I understand that you guys don't live in the same place. And so obviously you're going to make the most of the time that you have when you are in the same place. And so that kind of condenses the time frame that you can see each other and makes it so that you guys are spending a lot more time together than you would otherwise. But I think if you're going to spend more time together, like an entire weekend, it's really important that you at least give yourself little gaps or spaces to yourself, for her to have to herself, so that you have a little bit of a breather. Your fear-based brain and her fear-based brain have a little bit of a breather in between the time that you guys are spending with each other, because otherwise it's all sunshine and rainbows. It's all super exciting. It's super fun to spend time with somebody that you're gelling with. And for the first time, even, all of that can be so exciting, and it can be blinding to like actually giving yourself the healthy amount of time to get to know each other before your fear-based brain kicks in and tells you this is love and this is your person, because you're having such a nice weekend together.
Yeah, I feel bad that he's had this emotional whiplash where he gets so excited and then suddenly, for no apparent reason, just go south. And you're very grounded. You're staying in a curious place, which I think is the perfect place to be. Your question makes me believe that you're trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong. And she wasn't wrong for feeling that initial connection, and you weren't wrong for believing it, believing what she was expressing. So we don't need to decide who's wrong, who's right. I think what we need to unpack is how to interpret someone's like emotional momentum when they're still unsure where they're going. And that's where I think she's at. I don't think she's trying to play you. I just think that she doesn't have a strong sense of what it is that she wants. And she probably was willing to use this time with you to collect the data, to collect the information, see what it's like. And it was probably a little too much too fast. And that's where her like nervous system just started to kind of shut down, because it's hard to process all of these like big emotions in such a short amount of time.
And in this situation, it's likely that there was something else to this, because she knew that you lived in a different state. She knew that the whole time you guys were talking leading up to this time where you guys would get to see each other, that this would turn into something long distance if it worked out. So using that as a reason for why it all of a sudden can't work out is probably not the full story.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds like she is really into you, or at least she has been this entire time leading up to you guys getting to see each other. And so I don't think that she trying to like pull one over on you or is trying to be shady in any sense. I think this sounds like she did get really excited. She did jump into this a little too soon.
Yeah. I think she probably had that high from that physical connection that they had, but she hasn't done the work to feel safe in moving forward. It's totally normal for somebody to kind of shut down when they haven't come to a place where they've decided, yes, this is the way forward. It's probably really confusing for her. And so I think that leads to the second question that he was asking, which is, how do I protect myself from falling into patterns of getting hit with this emotional whiplash once things start to feel real?
Again, slowing down the pace of not just like how much you're seeing each other, but also how much you're thinking about her, how much you're like fantasizing what this is going to turn into, how much time you're spending on this, not make-believe, but almost make-believe relationship that hasn't even yet had the time to develop into one. You have to reel yourself back in. It's so exciting when things are going right and your fear-based brain wants to jump all over that and hold on tight. But that's not how healthy relationships develop. You have to give it the space, and you have to keep reminding yourself, if this is meant to work out, it's going to. So me sitting here and obsessing over whether or not it's going to work out in the first couple of weeks of getting to know each other is not helpful. It only gets you into these positions where you're feeling this emotional whiplash.
Yeah. So where you need to focus is on the discernment between intimacy and intensity. Intimacy is slow, steady, and consistent. Intensity is fast, it's euphoric, and it's often unsustainable. So sometimes someone can mean everything they say in the moment, but still be unavailable when that reality hits. So getting better at discerning between those two emotions, those two mindsets, is what's going to really help you navigate these kind of situations. So how do you stay intentional without getting caught in that kind of a cycle? You practice staying calibrated. I do what I consider like a recalibration every single week for myself. And it just means staying attuned to how someone holds the emotional aftermath of a high. You had that intimate connection. You saw how she pulled back. You are very aware. And I think that's a good way to gauge whether she's getting caught up in the intimacy or if she immediately following that strong connection pulls way back. That's a clue for you right there. I don't think you're going to have a hard time staying calibrated because it seems like you have a lot of awareness. If people start to pull away after closeness, that's information.
It's information. It's not necessarily good or bad information at that point. It's just information. And the more neutral you can make that, the better time you'll have not being thrown into this emotional whiplash. If you can neutralize the fact that we've just spent a lot of time together and now I'm noticing a shift, and then getting like really curious about it rather than dramatic about it. Being dramatic sounds like, oh my God, what's happening? What did I do? What should I do different? How can I fix this? That is the emotional spiral that a lot of people tend to go down in certain situations like this, which makes total sense. You're human. But shifting the narrative on it and actually making it neutral, actually making the situation less dramatic, because nothing at that point had really gone wrong. She didn't tell you at that point that she was out, that she was done. She was just trying to process her own feelings in this stage in the game. And so it's not that it's over. It's just that maybe it needs a little bit of a breather. Like you guys just spent a lot of time together for the first time exploring this relationship. And so maybe it's fair that it needed a breather. And so instead of like dramatizing it like our fear-based brain likes to do, neutralize it. Gather the information. Okay, interesting. I'm sensing she's pulling back. I'm wondering what that means.
And right at that moment, when you have a sense that she's pulling back and you're getting curious, I don't think it would hurt to ask her if this pace feels grounded, if it feels comfortable. You're not asking as a test, but you're trying to mirror how it is that they are handling this. Because the woman who is ready for love, that question is going to be very appreciated. And the one who isn't, she's going to wobble. And because we're in this fact-finding mission, we're trying to gather as much information, that is going to be a very telling question to ask.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a good point. What you just said is gold, because so often in the early stages, we're trying to push things forward. It's like before they're maybe even ready. And we start to spiral on this, what can I do? How can I change this? And really, it's just a matter of asking the other person a simple but very intentional question. And if that sends them the other direction, which I think is another piece of it, is like a lot of people don't want to ask the question because they don't want to know the answer to it. Like they don't want to see her like wobble or run away. And if that's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's going to be inevitable. So standing on your own ground and understanding your own value and understanding that you are worth this relationship. And if it's going to work out, there needs to be some sort of communication, especially in this early stage. Asking a really intentional question like that is going to get you so much further than avoiding those types of questions or trying to assume what's going on and then making up your own story and going way overboard or like pulling way back when it's not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Evan, the other question you asked is how to avoid premature intensity. And I don't think that you can always avoid that, but you can stop mistaking that for something that is going to be sustainable. You showed up, you led with integrity, and even now you're asking how to grow from this rather than just trying to protect yourself. That is emotional maturity. That's the man that you're becoming. So keep choosing to be seen. Let yourself feel that sting, but don't close your heart off. Add this to your emotional compass. She fit your list, but she didn't fit your life. And that distinction matters. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be met.
Yeah. I think it's super important that in situations like this, and this is why it's uber important to go into dating with the understanding of what it is you bring to the table and what your value is. So often guys go into dating and they're looking for the relationship to fill those gaps for them. And if you go into dating looking to have somebody else validate you or validate your worth or validate your value, dating is going to be really, really difficult because you're not in control of the other person. And so it is always going to feel like you're getting this emotional whiplash.
Yep. Yeah. Our Self-Made Man journal that is getting ready to come out, the first section is called Start With You. And it's really drawing your attention to what it is that you bring to the table, man or woman. I think we all overlook that. We're always trying to fix what we think is broken, or we're trying to fill in the gaps that we may have, which keeps us from recognizing what it is that we have to offer or the value that we bring to the table. And it's as simple as that. It's like, where is your focus? Are you trying to fill the gaps? Are you trying to fix yourself? Or are you focused on what it is that you're going to contribute to a relationship? You stay focused on that, and you are going to show up as a very confident man who is attracting somebody else who is equally confident. And that's what's going to make for a great relationship.
Yeah. But you've got to decide ahead of time.
100%. So buy our book.
Yeah, that's a little plug. It's not even available yet.
Not yet. No.
Not even available
It
yet.
is literally on the slow boat. We are selling through Amazon. If we could fulfill it in any other way, we would do that. But we suspect that this is going to be a journal that is going to help millions of men in their dating life. And there's no way that you and I could ship these journals off to millions of men. So it is going to be distributed through Amazon, and it is taking the long route to get there. But
it's going to be so worth it, you guys. Yeah. I am so excited for this book to come on the market because I think that having this sort of intention in your dating life is imperative. And it's one of the things that people skip over most often. And it's why they struggle in their dating life. And it's not to any fault of your own. We're just not taught how to be this intentional in our goals and in things that we want in life. And so
and how we want to feel and how we should be thinking. And so, yeah, that's like one piece of it. There's also a date log in the back, which I'm so excited about, where you actually are not keeping score, but
learning from every single date. I get guys that come to me and they're like, Gracie, I thought the date went well. Like, what happened? Why did she not want to go on another one with me? And then it's like, well, break it down for me. Tell me from start to finish what happened, and I'll help you figure it out.
Yep.
But oftentimes we'd retrospectively look back on dates, and it's like you pick out one thing and you immediately make that a problem.
Well, right. And then you like tether yourself to it and shame yourself about it, and you don't learn anything.
Right.
And if you can just look at that experience as something that was so valuable, if for no other reason, because you learned from it.
Yeah.
And now you can like iterate the next time and make it better. And there are lots of components to this journal. It also has a daily component that keeps you in a very intentional mindset. So I was updated this morning that they are expected to arrive and be available July 10th. So fingers crossed.
Here we go.
We will let you know.
Yeah. You Just Ask Her listeners will be one of the first to know when that book is available.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Evan, so much for writing in. I very much appreciate how heartfelt this submission was. It is obvious that this is still fresh and, like you said, raw, but I hope that our advice brings you a sense of grounded peace. And you have a lot that you can take away and really execute with intention.
Quick heads up for all my Just Ask Her listeners, I'm hosting another Attraction Masterclass this Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, and you're all invited. It'll be a live 60-minute class where I'm breaking down exactly what makes women feel pulled towards you. No games, no pretending, just grounded confidence and real connection. But spots are limited. Zoom actually caps the amount of people that I can have on this class, and I haven't posted this anywhere else yet. So this is your chance to grab a seat before it goes out to my 450,000 followers on Instagram. If your dating life has been in a slump, this is your sign to show up, take notes, and do something different. Go ahead and save your seat now. The link's in the show notes. All right, so submission number 2 is from Al, and we titled it, Did I Blow My Shot, or Was She Just at Work? Hi, Gracie and Tracy. Thank you for what you're doing with the podcast. It's been incredibly impactful. I wanted to ask you for your advice on a recent situation that left me a bit unsure. I was at a restaurant for a family gathering when I noticed the hostess caught my attention. From a distance, she seemed kind and approachable, and I felt like it could be a good opportunity to introduce myself. Throughout the evening, I started to pick up on what seemed like signs of mutual interest, mostly through sustained eye contact as I passed by. It got to a point where even my family members noticed. As we were leaving the restaurant, we locked eyes again and she smiled. I felt like this was a moment to approach. After my family stepped outside, I went back in and introduced myself. The restaurant was busy and she was standing near 2 coworkers, possibly one of them a supervisor, so I kept it brief. I told her I had noticed her throughout the night and just wanted to introduce myself. She seemed to appreciate the gesture and was polite and receptive during our short exchange. Then I asked if she'd be open to exchanging numbers. That's when her expression shifted. She looked almost nervous and caught off guard. She politely declined. Based on her body language and the fact that she was around coworkers, I couldn't help but wonder if she was worried about getting in trouble for giving out her number while on the job. I respected her answer, told her it was nice to meet her, and walked out. Now I'm wondering, did I catch her at the wrong moment, and is it worth trying again another time? Or should I take it as a sign to move on and leave it at that? Either way, I'm glad I took the chance and approached her. I don't regret that. Thanks in advance, Al.
Okay. Well, Al, first off, thank you for the submission and well done on walking out and walking back in to Just Ask Her. Like, bravo, my friend. We are so impressed by you.
You crushed it. I also have to say, I already have a sweet spot in my heart for you. Al is my grandpa's name, and he's like the cutest human on this planet. So you're already a winner in our eyes.
Yep. Okay, so I want to reiterate your question. Did I just catch her at the wrong moment, and is it worth trying again another time? I do think that you probably did catch her at the wrong time. And I would also go so far to say at the wrong place. So I think it has more to do with the place than anything else, because she was at work, and context is crucial. In a workplace or in a public service setting, people often will dial back like this overt flirting due to professional norms. So an employee who's on duty is obviously expected to be friendly and approachable, but they also have to stay professional.
Workplaces like this are so hard because she is being paid to look approachable and to be super kind to all the customers that come in. And so you're not the only one. This has happened a lot of times, but it is hard to decipher whether or not it's real interest or she's just doing her job. And the only way to find that out is to actually put yourself out there and start up the conversation and get the vibes from there and maybe even shoot your shot depending on the situation. But it is a difficult setting to read the cues in because she's going to be giving those cues regardless of if she's interested in you or not, if she's good at her job. So it's like there is a component of that you need to be careful of like not overly assuming just because you're getting those signs. And I know I say it in all of my videos, and I've said it on here quite a few times that those are really good signs, but you have to put it in context of the situation that you're in. And if she's being paid to give you those signals, then I wouldn't necessarily count those as like a full green light. Doesn't mean you can't start up the conversation. And I think that you did this the right way. I think that you handled this very maturely and appropriately. But to my mom's point, I do think you caught her at a bad time. And I don't know if that's avoidable, to be honest. Like if she's at work, like I don't know that you're not going to necessarily catch her when she's not around other employees because she's a hostess and she probably stands at that hostess desk with another hostess or her boss or whoever. So I think it's a tricky situation. The only other way I think you could get around this is if you slyly passed off your information, like if you gave your number to your waiter and said, hey, I think your hostess is really cute. I don't want to catch her off guard by going up and telling her that. If you think she'd be at all be interested in me, would you mind giving her my number? Super simple. We don't need to make it any bigger of a deal than that because that gives you the opportunity to not catch her off guard. That gives her the opportunity to make the decision herself. And if she's not interested, then she doesn't have to feel bad or awkward about telling you no. And if she is interested, then she can take it on her own time when she's not at work to go about like actually getting in contact with you.
Yeah. And here's what I want to offer you, Al. You did not blow your shot.
Mm-hmm.
You took your shot.
Yeah.
And the part that matters most is you did it in a way that was respectful, present, and direct. You even stepped outside, reassessed the situation, walked back in. That takes a lot of confidence and a lot of courage. And so you didn't blow it, you took it. So the question that you're sitting with is, was it just because she was at work that she declined? And that's where I want to challenge your brain a little bit, because that question, while totally human, can be a slippery slope. It really starts inviting you to read tea leaves instead of reading reality. The reality is you were available and she wasn't, and that's it. Let's imagine she was into you. Let's imagine she did feel a little spark and couldn't act on it because of the work setting. That's still not your cue to wait and hope. It's her cue to find a way to reconnect if she chooses to.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where that emotional adulthood comes in. You don't need to chase all of the what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
It's very human of us to do that. You need to let her decide what to do with the open door that you left. You made your interest known. It was clean. It was clear. It was kind. That's the magnetic energy that you left her with. So here's the reframe that I want you to walk away with. What if this wasn't a missed shot, but a signal that you're stepping into the version of yourself who takes aligned action without needing guaranteed results? That's the person that you're becoming, and it's not easy. We all struggle with that, but can you do that? Can you hold yourself to that standard? That man does not wait around for maybes. He doesn't nurse hope disguised as strategy. He moves forward with his eyes wide open, his shoulders back, knowing that he'll keep creating opportunities, not chasing them down.
Mm-hmm. You asked if it's worth trying another time. And while I think you caught her at a bad time, I also don't think it's worth trying another time. Because if she isn't interested, you're going to make her uncomfortable. And we don't want that at all, right? You don't want to make somebody feel uncomfortable at their own place of work. She already has shown some signs that she might have been uncomfortable with it, whether it was because she was in front of her boss or not. So you don't want to like further push that. I used to work at a Foot Locker in high school, and I was like one of the only female employees at this Foot Locker. The rest of my coworkers were guys. And
for our international listeners, this is a shoe store.
It's a shoe store. Yes. For anybody that doesn't know what Foot Locker is, it's a shoe store. I sold sneakers. I freaking loved that job.
It was very interesting.
I learned every single pair of Jordans, what their name was, what different types of shoes there were, all these different basketball shoes.
And that people were actually collectors of these
sneakers. Sneakerheads. That's what they're called. Sneakerheads.
And they never intended to ever even wear these shoes. They
would buy them to collect them. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then there's like shoe guards that you can buy so that your shoes don't crease. Like, what a world. We literally had shoe releases at Foot Locker. Like, how serious? It was intense. Yeah. So I used to work at a Foot Locker, and it would happen from time to time where guys would come in and they would flirt with me a little bit. And like my boss, I went through a couple bosses, but one of them was a woman at the time. And she just like took no shit. She was very protective of me, knowing like the setting that we were in, that it was mainly a male clientele that was coming into Foot Locker, and they were mainly a lot older than me. I was like 16 at the time, or 15 at the time. So she was very protective of me, and she would oftentimes do the heavy lifting for me if somebody was like chatting me up or trying to get my number and I clearly wasn't interested. She usually would step in for me and take the client.
Escort them out the door.
Yeah, escort them out the door. No, it wasn't that dramatic. But I remember one time in particular that I actually was interested in this guy. He was super cute. He was around my age. I had seen him walk past the windows a few times before. And from outside the store, I like made eye contact with him. And I like smiled, and he pulled out his phone and held it up and like waved it in the window, like asking for my number that way. And I remember I was standing next to my other coworker. I remember my face going like beet red. I was interested in this person, but I was so embarrassed that he was asking for my phone number. One, he was like waving his phone in the air. Couldn't have made it more obvious. But also like I was at work in front of my other coworkers. And so I immediately felt so embarrassed. And so this could have nothing to do with you. It could have like literally nothing to do with you. But also I remember the times where there were other guys that I was not interested in, or that were like 3 times my age trying to hit on me at 16. And I was like so uncomfortable. And there were times that I was even uncomfortable that they were going to come back. And being in both sides, I would much rather prefer you not to take the chance that she was uncomfortable and that's why she said no, than to go back and reshoot your shot when she said no the first time.
Yeah. I think if your paths cross again and she brings it up, amazing.
Yes.
If not, it's also amazing, because either way, you showed up as somebody who's worth remembering. Like, I know I'll never forget the submission. I have such a vivid visual in my mind.
I do too. I was playing it in my head when we were reading it.
He painted such a great picture that it's worth remembering. And we're going to remember it in such a great way. And I think that's amazing. And I know that it doesn't help the actual circumstance, but we really want you to reframe this in your mind that you didn't miss it. Like, you actually took the shot, and it doesn't really have anything to do with you. She doesn't know you at all. And she was giving you cues that probably didn't have as much to do with her just trying to be professional. She probably was flirting or a little bit interested, but
yeah, it could be. I just think I think there's no harm in handling situations like this in a really respectful way. I think your odds probably would be better if you maybe didn't go so forward when she was in front of other coworkers. If you had done more of a nonchalant, give her my number type of thing. But I completely understand wanting to make that contact yourself. And I think you handled it in a very, very appropriate way. And if she was embarrassed and didn't want to give you her phone number at the time, that's totally fine. That's her prerogative. And if she was interested, but she was just embarrassed, like I was that time at Foot Locker, and you guys do cross paths, she'll make it happen. She'll remember you. She'll come up to you or figure out a way to get your contact. Girls that are interested in someone usually don't let opportunities slip. So yep. I think if there is an opportunity and she was interested, she'll make it happen.
Hey there. If you're loving the Just Ask Her podcast, please take a quick second to rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It helps more awesome listeners like you find the show. And don't forget to spread the love by sharing this episode with all of your friends. All right, back to Just Ask Her. Okay, so submission 3 is from Kyle, and we titled it, How Do You Rebuild Confidence After Feeling Misled? After my last breakup and many previous letdowns with dating apps, I decided to take the old-fashioned route by stepping away from the apps entirely and talking to women in person. I started with simple but direct compliments while ordering coffee or at the bar, and they were very well received. As a result, my social skills started to improve because I was no longer afraid to start conversations. I work out of town a couple of times a week and would always see the same girl working the register at a gas station. After complimenting her once and striking up a conversation the second time, I got the feeling she might be interested. So the next time I saw her, I mustered up the courage to ask if she'd like to grab coffee sometime. I could barely finish asking before she gave me a resounding yes. Her whole demeanor shifted, her eyes lit up with excitement, and she practically took my phone from my hand to give me her number. We started texting and quickly realized we had a lot in common. Our schedules didn't line up for a date anytime soon, so we began FaceTiming instead. The conversations would last for hours. We never ran out of things to talk about. We were both looking for a serious, long-term relationship, but agreed to take things slow so we could really get to know each other. She told me she was still healing from a traumatic breakup, but she also said things like, my parents would really like you when they meet you, and how excited she was to go to farmers markets with me. At one point, she even said, I'm glad you asked me out. I wanted to ask you first, but was afraid you'd say no. I met her sister when I visited her one time, and she also introduced me to some of her coworkers at the gas station. After about 8 days, I planned to stop by and see her at work on my way back into town. She didn't text me all day, and when I saw her, I had this gut feeling something was off. I brushed it off as nerves, but a few hours later, she texted me saying she had a lot going on in her life and didn't want me to expect anything official. She wasn't sure she even wanted this after all. I responded that I was simply interested in getting to know her more, but if she didn't see it going anywhere, I'd rather she be honest. She replied that it wouldn't go anywhere. I responded with, thanks for letting me know, wish you the best, and that was the end of it. Since then, I have felt depressed. I put myself out there and ended up feeling misled. I understand she may truly not be ready for a relationship after her last breakup, but it hurts to have had her show so much interest only to completely pull back. I can't help but wonder if she was lying about how she felt. All the confidence I worked for months to build vanished in a single day. This hurt feels different because it happened mostly in person, not over a dating app. How do I bounce back and rebuild the confidence to ask someone out again, when now I can't shake the fear that any girl who says yes will end up doing the same thing? There's kind of a common thread between...
I know, I was going to say this is a lot like Evan's situation.
Yeah. So, well, first off, thank you for taking the time to write in. This story has so much intention and courage and growth. And even if it doesn't feel like that right now, you didn't just put yourself out there. You led with clarity. You were emotionally available, and you offered her a lot of respect. And I don't think that's a loss. That is clearly your standard. As long as you keep those standards, is going to attract the right person.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I also want to give you so much props for taking arguably the harder route rather than hiding behind the apps, which I'm not saying that everyone gets on the apps to hide. It's so interesting. I was on a podcast, and the host of the podcast had recently interviewed the CEO of Tinder. And he said that when he was having a conversation with him, one of the crazy things that he found out from the CEO of Tinder was that when Tinder did a survey about why people use their apps or what the biggest benefits were, one of the things that they found out was that most people love the idea of getting on the apps because they can't get rejected to their face. And it wasn't said, he didn't say it like that, but essentially that's what he was saying, was that most people really enjoy the idea of apps because they don't have to put themselves out there in a way that they would if they were meeting people in person or asking for people's numbers or asking people out in person. Yeah. They get to do it behind their phone. And if they get rejected, it's a lot less of a blow than it is if you were in person or in real life trying to do this. So I think it's really interesting because I had never had that take on dating apps. Like, I had only really looked at them as a tool that was like, wow, you get access to so many people, so many single people at your fingertips. And
yeah, you looked at it as a volume resource.
Yeah.
And he looks at it as like a protection resource.
Yeah, they surveyed their users and found out that it was more of a protection resource. And so I want to give you that because I want you to understand how impressive it is that you intentionally made the decision not to hide behind the apps and to actually put yourself out there in a way that garners like face-to-face rejection. And
what's so interesting is that he very intentionally decided to approach women in person so that he could get better at it. He started with simple but direct compliments while ordering coffee or sitting at a bar. And as those were being received well, he would take the next step. And he saw that his social skills were improving. And if you really realize what the exercise was here and how it resulted in improved skill sets, you're going to recognize that getting rejected in this way is also going to improve a skill set. It's going to improve the skill set that keeps rejection from meaning anything about your worth.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean a damn thing about your value. It's just a no, move on. That's it. That's all that means. But nobody is going to be able to hit that out of the park first time up to bat. Like, you have to have the practice. And that's exactly what just happened here.
Yeah, totally. It's such a good experience in getting the contrast. Like, you learn so much about yourself and what it is that you want and you don't want when you actually get the experience. This is an experience. You learned more about yourself and what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want because of this experience. Whether you've gotten to that place or not, you will be able to see that probably the further that you get from this situation. And we could sit here and speculate all day long about what this girl's reasoning was, but it's not helpful. She's already shown that she's not in a place where a relationship makes sense. And as hard as it is to take that and move on, that is the best option for you right now. Instead of sitting here dwelling on what this means or what it means about you, take this as an opportunity, as an experience that you get to now learn from and use to your benefit for when you do come across the right person.
Yeah. And your question was, how do I rebuild confidence when it feels like it just got yanked out from under me? Confidence is not built by how people respond. Confidence is built by how you respond to them. You have done a great job from start to finish. She didn't take any confidence from you. It's something that you momentarily gave away in exchange for certainty. Your brain, like Gracie said, it craves patterns. So when someone goes from my parents would love you to this isn't going anywhere in the span of a few days, it breaks that pattern that you were building. And when that pattern breaks, your brain doesn't say, maybe she had some emotional whiplash. It says, abort the mission. Like, this hurts. Don't do that again. And that instinct is just trying to protect your ego, but it's not going to grow your resilience.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you're still here to tell the story from a place of is huge. And so momentarily, you exchanged your confidence for certainty. Hopefully, we've been able to reframe that for you so you really see what happened and your resilience is growing through this exercise. and you saw it from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. And when somebody doesn't see your value, that is an immediate sign that they're not right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Immediate sign. There's nothing more that you need to know about this person. There's nothing more you need to speculate on whether or not this could have worked out or would have worked out in the future. If they don't see your value, they are not right for you. Period. The second half of that question was, how do I rebuild the confidence to ask someone out again when now I can't shake the fear that any girl who says yes will end up doing the same thing to me? The thing is,
you can't focus on that.
Yeah, you can't focus on that because yes, it's a possibility and it could happen. And if it does happen, then she wasn't right for you. She was not going to be your person.
If you worry about that, you're allowing your brain to scan for the evidence that women will let you down.
Yeah.
Your brain will find what you ask it to look for. So instead of asking, how do I avoid being let down? Ask yourself, what did this teach me about how I want to feel with someone? Now your brain's going to go to work finding that.
I had a similar situation to this where I had been seeing this guy for a couple months and he was saying the same types of things like, oh, my mom is going to love you. And we went even so far as like him introducing me to his parents. And then literally a week after I met his parents, it was an immediate shift. All of a sudden, he wasn't into me anymore. Or all of a sudden, it wasn't going to work. And I had a lot of these same thoughts like, holy shit, I thought like we were on such a good path. And like all out of nowhere, he could just pull the rug out from under me. What in the world? How am I supposed to move forward knowing that can happen? And it's like, you move forward because you know that your person, the right person, would never do that. They would never do that. And the right person, you're going to feel all these feelings that you felt with her, plus a million more. Like every single day, you're going to get to feel these feelings. And so take this experience for what it was worth and allow yourself to look back at these experiences as something that you still enjoyed. Just because it ended doesn't take away from the experience. It doesn't take away from the nice time that you did have and the possibility of there being a relationship where you can enjoy yourself that much. Like it's possible. Now we know it's possible that you can have an amazing time with somebody that you just met.
Yeah. And keep reminding yourself what works for you. You've already proven that building confidence through action works really well for you. So do not shift into avoidance. You don't want to avoid trying to get hurt. Like the next woman that you talk to doesn't need to carry the burden of proving she won't hurt you. That's not the kind of foundation you want to create from. She just needs to meet you where you're at. So trust your discernment more than you trust their potential. You have the ability to discern if she's right to pursue a relationship with.
You should stop telling yourself the story that you wouldn't be able to handle it if this happened again. Like, obviously, we don't ever want this to happen again. But I think our brain does such a good job of scaring the shit out of us into like never wanting to attempt something like this again because it was so painful the first time. You are capable of feeling the hard feelings. These are the hard feelings that come with putting yourself out there. And you are very, very capable of feeling them and pulling yourself out of them and trying again.
Confidence is not never getting hurt.
Right.
That is not what confidence is. Confidence is knowing that you can get hurt and you keep showing up anyways. That is what this is all about. And you are getting the at-bats. So don't let this one woman become the narrator of your dating future. She was one tiny little chapter. She certainly was not the ending.
Yeah. I think that it sounds like you have a lot going for you. And I completely empathize with being a little bit afraid of putting yourself back out there again. I promise you, even if this worst case happens to you again, you will pull yourself out of it. You are so capable of pulling yourself out of it. And it will be worth it when you come across the right person.
Yeah. And there was a study on dating disappointment. And 68% of participants who felt misled in early dating reported difficulty trusting new partners for at least 3 months afterwards. So I want you to not have to suffer through the first 3 months of your next relationship. Continue to show up as the person who you are clearly becoming, the man who's confident, the man who's willing to feel the sting, the rejection, the hurt. You have the capacity to do that. That's what's going to create the confidence. And that's what's going to detour that 3 month of worry.
Yeah. I'm glad you wrote in. I think that this is a very relatable situation. Obviously, Evan was 2 submissions before you, and it's not too far off from there. And I think it's just important to remind yourself of how capable you are of getting through even the hard feelings that come with being vulnerable and putting yourself out there, because you know what your end goal is and you know it's going to be worth it when you do get there.
Exactly.
All right. That's it for this week's podcast. If you want more dating content in between now and next episode, be sure to find me on Instagram and TikTok at Dating with Gracie. We'll see you right back here next week. And in the meantime, no matter where you are or what situation you're in, just ask her.